The episode begins on planet Earth, which has been invaded by a group of 16 elite soldiers sent by the 5 great celestial mages. After Master Roshi defeats 2 enemies and Tien and Chaozu defeat 2 more, there are still 12 opponents left to fight. At that moment, Krillin chases a trio of enemies. He followed them from the celestial platform where the group of enemies dispersed. After a long chase, the group stopped when they arrived in the western city. The group consisted of a beautiful woman, a bearded dwarf, and a guy who was extremely weird. Krillin tells them to fight somewhere else. The woman asks why they would do that. The Earthling replies that if they fight there, they will destroy the city and put people at risk. The ugly creature laughing asks why they would care about it, and Krillin, disappointed, says he thought that they had at least a little honor. But to his surprise, the dwarf says, "Those 2 may not have honor, but I do. As far as I'm concerned, your city won't be affected by the fight." Krillin thanks him. The ugly creature says that Krillin shouldn't have gone after them alone, and he concludes his sentence by saying that he is just a bald dwarf. And that last phrase makes the dwarf of the group angry. "What's wrong with him being a dwarf?" Gilmer says. But the ugly soldier says that he wouldn't be discussing nonsense. He says he thinks the other 2 are enough to finish Krillin, and that he's going to destroy the city for some fun. Krillin yells no, and watches the ugliest disciple walk away. He tries to chase after him, but the dwarf gets in his way. Krillin, without thinking twice, attacks the dwarf to try to get him out of the way, but he defends himself and retaliates with a kick that Krillin parried. But the blow was so powerful that he was thrown back a few meters. The dwarf disciple says, "Your opponent will be me." The woman asks about her. The man replies, "2 against 1 is not a fair fight." She says, "Whatever," and then flies to the top of the building and sits down to watch the dwarves fight. Krillin praises his opponent. He says, "You seem to have a much greater sense of honor than your friends. Why are you doing this?" To which the dwarf replies, "The law that rules the world is that of the strongest. That's what I believe. So if we have a power greater than you, we have the right to take over your planet." Krillin sighs, disappointed. "What a disappointing thought. I'll finish you off soon to go after the other one." The enemy doing his fighting stance says, "Do you think it's going to be that easy? You're very wrong. Listen well. I am Gilmer, disciple of the great warrior mage. It will be me who will defeat you." Krillin also introduces himself. "I am Krillin, an earth warrior." Krillin flies towards Gilmer to attack him with all his might. However, he ends up backing off when Gilmer forms 2 key weapons in his hands. According to Gilmer, these weapons are called chakrans, and they're basically discs that in theory can cut anything they touch. Krillin observes, "It looks like a smaller version of my Kienzan." Gilmer charges at Krillin with a series of attacks, trying to cut him with his weapons. The Earthman dodges all the attacks, retreats to gain distance, and prepares a Kamehameha to launch at Gilmer. But the invader quickly launches a chakram at Krillin. When the Earthling launches the Kamehameha, the disc advances through the energy wave, cutting it in half, and almost cuts Krillin, who needs to dodge to avoid dying. He says scared, "That was dangerous." Gilmer quickly rushes towards the bald Earthling and tries to cut him in every possible way with the chakram that remains. Krillin manages to dodge and prepare a counterattack, but at the last second, he cancels his counterattack, as he has to dodge the other chakram that has been launched before, which was almost hitting him from behind. After Krillin dodges the chakram coming from behind, Gilmer takes the weapon in the air and starts another slashing sequence again with the 2 discs in his hands. After dodging more attacks, Krillin manages to retreat again and fires 2 key blasts at his opponent. Gilmer launches his weapons in one fell swoop, and the discs slash in half Krillin's attacks and goes toward the bald man. Krillin makes an acrobatic movement in the air, managing to pass between the 2 discs, narrowly missing some part of his body. But that wasn't enough to get rid of the energy discs. Gilmer, even from a distance, manipulates his chakrams to hit Krillin, who dodged with difficulty. Krillin starts to fly away from the discs. Gilmer says, "Sooner or later you're going to get hit. Give up at once." Krillin headed towards Gilmer as the discs chased him, but when he got close to the invader dwarf, the Earthling dwarf maneuvered through the air, moving away from the invader and letting the chakrams head towards him. But unlike what Krillin imagined, Gilmer took the chakrams quite easily. He laughs. "Haha, did you think you'd get to me with a trick like that?" Krillin, a little embarrassed, replies, "Actually, I thought." The 2 realize that in a place far away, a city was being destroyed. Gilmer comments, "Looks like my companion started the attack." Krillin hurriedly says, "I can't waste any more time here. Sorry, but I have to defeat you as soon as possible." But Gilmer argues, "If that's all you've got, give it up." But the Earth Warrior explains, "Actually, I was trying to save energy when dealing with you, so I wouldn't get worn out when I face the other two later. But if I don't fight with my best friend, it's going to take too long, and a lot of people could end up getting killed." Those affirmations make Gilmer angry. "Are you telling me you're hiding your power? What a joke." Krillin points both of his hands towards the sky and forms a disc of energy in each one of them. This makes Gilmer curious. "What is it?" Gilmer says. Krillin explains, "That's my special technique, the Kienzan. It's a technique I created myself, and it's my most powerful skill." Gilmer, observing the Kienzan, says, "I see. It's like a chakram, like mine, only bigger." Krillin tries to make a deal with his opponent. "You said you believe in the law of the strongest, right? Well, if my technique beats yours, we can say that I'm stronger than you. Then you will give up this fight." Hearing that proposal, Gilmer laughs and then gives his answer. "You're a funny guy. All right, we'll do as you say. But if I win this technique of yours called Kienzan, you will become my servant and follow me in all my battles." Krillin agrees to Gilmer's terms. After that, they prepare and stare at each other for moments, and then they launch their attacks at the same time. Krillin's two Kienzans clash with Gilmer's two chakrams. The discs spin rapidly as they try to cut each other, creating powerful sparks of energy all around. But within seconds, the answer comes, and Gilmer's chakrams are split in half. Disappointed Gilmer laments, It can't be. I lost." Krillin celebrates. "I won. Now you have to get out of here." But the woman who was watching everything gets up from where she was and slowly floats to Krillin. She says she didn't need to do anything. It was that idiot who made a promise, not her. She even turns to Gilmer and tells him to stop this nonsense. His master would be very angry if she knew what he was doing. He must keep fighting. But Gilmer replies, "I can't do this, Letitia. I made a deal and I must honor it." And with that last phrase from Gilmer, we discover that this woman is called Letitia. Letitia says that Gilmer is an idiot, and she will defeat Krillin, who says that she has a very strong personality and admires people like that. Hearing that compliment, Letitia smiles and she says that Krillin is an admirable man too, beating Gilmer that way. Krillin is flattered, and she goes on to say that it's hard to find a man like that. She also says it's a little lonely being a strong woman. It's hard to find a man who understands her, but he was different. Letitia, after saying these things, approaches Krillin and pats him on the head. This leaves him surprised and embarrassed. "Hey, what are you doing?" said Krillin. She continues her seduction by saying that they give up the fight and get out of there. She invites Krillin to leave the planet with her. The only thing that went through Krillin's mind was to accept the proposal. Letitia kisses Krillin's forehead, which embarrasses him even more, but he feels strangely calm. Letitia asks if he wants to be with her, and he, confused, says he does. Letitia hugs Krillin, who is so reassured that he starts to feel very sleepy. She asks if he still cares so much about this town and these people. He says not so much. She asks if he is going to let it all go. He says yes. He will leave the city, his house, and his wife. But when he says the word wife, he gets a big shock of reality. Krillin says, "My wife, my daughter. I'm sorry, but I can't go with you. If this city is destroyed, my family is in danger." Letitia is very surprised. What happened? He was giving up the fight. Krillin then gives his final answer. "I'm sorry, lady, but I can't give up the fight. I have to defeat anyone who poses danger to the city and this planet. That includes you." After Krillin says these words, Gilmer approaches and says to Letitia, "Looks like your spells didn't work." Krillin didn't understand what did he mean by spell. Gilmer explains, Letitia is a disciple of the Grand Mage of Illusions. Her ability to manipulate people's mind through love. She makes people create strong feelings for her very quickly. Krillin was shocked by that information. "So you're bewitching me?" he says. Letitia says yes, she was. But apparently it didn't work out. He must love his family so much, since he can resist her spells. Krillin smiles, a little embarrassed. Letitia says there's probably no chance of her beating him now. She gives up. Krillin asks what happened now. Gilmer says, "I don't know if we could go back to our masters now. We would probably be killed or severely punished. We go somewhere else and wait for the situation to end." Krillin says, "I understand. When all this is over, you can come to Earth and live together with us." Gilmer laughs and says, "You really are a funny guy, warrior, Krillin. We will always remember your honor and loyalty to your family and planet." Letitia completes the eulogy by saying that Krillin's wife was lucky to have him. Krillin says, "Well, any day you come by, and tell her that." Gilmer says, "Before we go, it's important that you know a few things. As you may already be aware, we are not from the world. In fact, we don't belong to any of these universes that are under Zeno's command. we belong somewhere else. I believe that mortals here have no idea of the true size of what is called existence. You are currently in one of the 12 universes created by Zeno. All that you know is the great kingdom of Zeno, but this kingdom that we are in is just one among the 7 that exist. To tell you the truth, I know almost nothing about the other 7 realms, but I know where I came from. The realm of Zarat. The kingdom we came from used to be a beautiful place. But one day, our king, in an attempt to steal this entire kingdom by himself, ended up being defeated. When that happened, our kingdom ended up sinking into chaos and destruction. All those who were weak died, and in the end, only those who could fight were left. Since our king was defeated, those who were once part of Zarat's elite have a single goal: bring Zarat back and take possession of this kingdom we are in. Curious and apprehensive, Krillin asks, if Zarat wakes up, what will happen to us? Now the answer is Letitia. She says that on the first visit to this planet, Zarat just wanted to take power and rule the 2 kingdoms. But since there are now countless mortals scattered everywhere, it's possible that he wants to kill all the mortals and all gods, starting everything again. Krillin, surprised by all that, asks, if your kingdom is descending into chaos and destruction, and you finally have a chance to have a peaceful place again, why are you telling me these things? Gilmer justifies. As I said in my kingdom, the weakest die and the strongest stand. Now is no different. The strongest kingdom must stand. But don't think that all my comrades who are attacking this planet right now think like that. They will do everything to have a peaceful place to live. Krillin says that his friend will not be defeated, which causes admiration in Gilmer. And Gilmer says, interesting your trust in your friends. But Krillin, be careful. Our powers don't even compare to the next opponents you will face. And to tell you the truth, with that level of power, you'll be dead in the blink of an eye. I believe your friends won't be of much help with the powers they have at the moment either. You have 6 months. 6 months until the mages start to really act, so you better get stronger. Krillin, even scared of all the information, thanks the 2 for their kindness for telling him that. Letitia calls Gilmer. They must leave before someone comes after them. Krillin, after saying goodbye to them, quickly heads towards the part of the city that is being destroyed. Thanks to Krillin, 2 soldiers end up giving up on attacking Earth and its inhabitants. But there are still 10 of them on the planet. Who will defeat them? Find out in the next episode of Dragon Ball Hakai.